as to what's essential for you. Right? So again, you research customers, you start to get an idea as to where they are, who they are, what they do, what they talk about. That starts to give you some clues as to where you need to be. The next one, very important as well, is the one that is developed by Lee and Bernoff in 2008, the Groundswell sort of like book. They looked at several types of users online, right? And they said, is there any way we can try to learn whether these groups are all the same? And guess what? They came up with something quite relevant, which is the fact that even though you might have all those followers online, that doesn't mean that all of them are engaging with you all the time. So, based on their research, they came up with this model where they have introduced several groups of audiences online, and what do they do online? So what's their behavior online? The first one are the creators, right? Those who are actively engaged and actually create and publish content as well. So they're quite an important group of users. And if you can have some of them in your community, within your business, then you should really nurture them, because they will publish lots of content that can drive some of the traffic to you towards your brand. The next ones are critics, those guys who maybe don't necessarily write lots of content, but those are the guys that criticize pretty much everything that you do. So knowing who these guys are is quite important, because if you look after them and manage their expectations, they will actually end up being advocates for your own business, right? The third group are those collectors, who again, they don't criticize, they don't do much, but they just collect information, they download stuff, and that's it, right? Now joiners are those guys who just joined in, but pretty much don't do much around your presence on social media. And again, what you need to do as a business, you need to have a plan put in place where you get to talk to those users that are not doing much. Or you get to let them know that if they haven't visited your Facebook fan page for a while, they need to do that because there's something exciting happening. So in other words, by looking at this ladder, right, of different groups of customers or the audience online, you will start to try to move those groups of users from one level to another. Spectators, again, are just those who read stuff, watch stuff, but they don't do anything. They're just spectators. They don't do much, right? Inactives, they don't do any of the things above. But if we are going to succeed with a social media strategy, we need to make sure that those who follow us engage with us. So in other words, those spectators or joiners, we're trying to move them up the ladder so they become part of those creators, those who create either content for us or help us with our own business. And brands, some successful brands do very well that way. And you will notice, well, sometimes they do that through payments. They actually pay specific fees to those Instagram stars or like YouTube stars, right? Where companies pay them cash to either review their products, to talk about their products, recommend their products, or develop content around their industry. So if you are a YouTuber, right, and then you've got thousands of subscribers, you can approach any business and say, by the way, I can do something for you and I can reach out to this amount of people every single day. Because as soon as I publish something, every single user and every single subscriber will get a notification that I've posted something new. They'll come along to my YouTube channel and they will view it or download it. And now with the mobile phones, smartphones, they actually don't have to be in a PC, but they can actually view some of those new uploads every time I've done that, because they will receive a notification for it. Right? So this ladder, if you will, help us to understand that if you've got thousands of Facebook fan page guys that come after you, right? But they actually don't do much. They don't engage with the content. You will find this when you do your research on different brands. You will find that some brands have got huge following, but those followers don't do anything. Now, they see some of the things, but you've got no idea as to what are they doing with it. So being able to try to get them to engage with you is very important. So it's much better to have 1,000 followers who engage with you regularly than hundreds of thousands who've only been once into your Facebook fan page. That is what it is, right? Because ultimately in business you're looking at the numbers. In business you're looking at the numbers and looking at how much you can convert. If you've got all those followers that do absolutely nothing, what's the point? Right? But if you've got 1,000 followers who every day engage with you because you either do a very good job supporting their inquiries or provide content that is relevant to them, then you've got something going on. Right? And this letter helps us to get that better understanding. Next, there are different things that we try to do with social. We're trying to become experts by doing lots of stuff online, right? We're doing mix of sort of like research, meeting people, understanding trends, keeping up with friends, identifying interesting content, and making sure that you've got a really good understanding on the things that you're trying to do. Let's see some of the themes that social media is organized on online. If you try to group on some of those activities that happen online, you'll start getting an understanding that majority of that happens around marketing and sales. So companies do all those fantastic videos and content and Instagram photos and everything else because they want to promote themselves. The second theme, quite popular one, is of course the customer service. Some brands are not necessarily looking at selling you something, but they are clearly looking at providing a better customer service so that in the long run you will be someone that will follow their brand and ultimately buy something from them. Right? If you've got a company that you are following all the time and are very good with customer service, you're not going to switch just like that to their competitors without really giving them a chance. So customer service means a lot. And that's the second theme around social media online. The third theme is research, IT and HR. Where brands do all those sort of strategies they go online are organized around researching and understanding customers. What they think on brands, what they think on products, and what they think on overall customer strategy on each business, right? The second is in IT, related to technology. We want to learn more about IT. And the third one in here, in that specific theme, is the HR. Nowadays, almost every single company, before they recruit you, they'll check up your profiles on social media and whether you're okay to actually be working for them and whether you fit to the culture within the company, right? Because you might be brilliant at what you do, but you just do not fit on the culture within the company. In fact, most people, when they recruit you or they get you to an interview, they'll say something like this. They'll say, "We're very impressed with your background, we're very impressed with things that you've done in placement. However, we don't think that you would fit very well within the culture of our company and things that we're trying to do." Right? And then of course the next theme is more around executive management, whereby social media is around as well, content on social media is organized around getting the executive guys to actually engage with it. Right? In other words, getting senior guys to be quite active in promoting content, sharing content, and actually supporting some of the customers too. And the research shows consistently that those companies that have got their executives to engage with social media in a daily basis, chances are that they will attract quite huge amount of visitors to their website, and they will be building up a pretty good following, and they will improve customers' brand awareness too. Right? And again, all of those things will help us to do two things. Build up brand awareness, I said, and loyalty as well. And if you've got loyal followers that engage with you at all time, you have got something. And it doesn't matter what happens to your factory that you've got, or your huge expenses, if you've got true loyal customers, whatever happens to your business, those guys will come after you. Right? Because they trust on the things that you do in the relationship that you've got. So finding your customers, there are all sorts of ways of doing that. You can do short surveys that you normally put on the website. Companies do that all the time. Google Analytics, you learn more about your customers through Google Analytics, where they come from, what keywords that they use, and so on. Find friends tools like customer mailing list. You mail customers and see where they are, where they're spending most of their time. You can use Google Alerts and actually get a really good idea as who those people are talking about your brand at all time, 24/7. So all you have to do is set up Google Alerts, and then you will be on top of the things that your industry is talking about, and especially when they're mentioning your name or your business name. Technorati is one of the biggest, largest blogging directory in the world. So as a business, if you've got a blog, that's a place to go to learn more about the readers that you might have and the things that they normally talk about. Social mentions is just another tool to help us to learn more about who our customers are, especially those that talk about us and talk about our brands. And another nice way of doing it is actually learning through hashtags and trends and replies and mentions, either on Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn, those users that talk about our brand and our company. So that's another way to learn more and around our customers, who they are, what do they do. Once we've done that, we start to choose our channel, which is the channel that we're going to use and why. Okay, once we choose the channel, we need to make it easy to share. In other words, we need to have those channels, those presences, those links of specific channels in our website or in our sort of overall strategy in social media. We need to tell people how they can find you. Those links need to be in email newsletters. Those links need to be on the regular updates you're sending out. And those links to your social media channels need to be almost in every marketing activity you've got. So you need to make it easy for people to share stuff that they want with your profiles online. Okay, now, where we're going with the overall digital business nowadays is that we're pretty much 24/7 open, right? And the social media makes it even harder because the customers are going to be in touch with you throughout the day, all the time. So that makes it quite challenging. And being able to support that, you've got to have a plan. You've got to have a staffing plan. And the staffing plan, you're going to need people to execute your plan. That's why people, not person, right? Because one individual can't do much, right? It might survive for a bit, but before you realize he or she is just going to give up. Because social, in every company, to be successful, needs to have everyone on board, at least most people within the company. Every time we work with local companies around Hertfordshire or even in London, right, we try to help them out to get everyone within the company engaged in their social media strategies. Otherwise, if they just focus on one individual, it's going to be doomed to fail. It's just not going to work. Or if it works, it's not going to bring as many benefits as we would like. Right? Because, again, there's just limit to how much one individual can do in comparison to the whole team. staffing guys, and once you know who is going to be involved and what they'll do, you'll have to put together a staffing guide. In other words, you need to write a little bit of a social networking policy. I don't really want to call it a policy, but I'd really like to say as a sort of plan or as a guide where you tell people what are the things that they can do, what are the things that are appropriate to talk about online, what are the sort of like guidelines on how to deal with negative comments and positive comments, and in general how to support customers online. And of course, employees again should be advocates on social networking presence. Not just those people that engage, but actually advocates that promote those services further. So, how do we optimize brand engagement, brand employees? Well, in general, you've got two groups of employees that engage for you on your behalf on social media, right? There's one group of employees who are using their own personal, right, accounts to help you with the brand, with the company. And there's the second group of customers who have got your specific branded accounts, so that once they leave the company, those specific brands, those specific accounts around your brand are going to be left with you. But once those users that have got their own private accounts, social media accounts that they're using while they're working for you, once they leave, they'll take all those accounts with them, and you cannot stop it, right? So in other words, you might have employees who've got hundreds of followers of Twitter users on their profiles, right? And suddenly they are not happy with the boss, they leaving, they're taking all those followers with them. So there's a lot of discussion as to which is the right way to do it. But again, our argument is this one. You need to be quite flexible with this, right? Which means that those users who have already built up a following and they're not going to be using a personal branded account on social media, you might as well leave them use their private accounts, right? Because if you try to push them to use branded accounts on social media, that means that they might just give up and not do much around it. So you need to be very flexible. Of course, you need to try and push that they use branded social account. For instance, Dell does that. Zappos does that very well. For instance, Dell would have something like @name of the employee and then Dell. For instance, Zappos will have something @Zappos like name of the employee, which means that you will know by default when you're receiving a comment or a reply from an employee of Zappos. And I think that's quite good, because if you receive a response from just any guy on social media, he might be working for Zappos, but you've got no idea because the account he's got is a private account, right? So that just makes it a lot easier. But again, you've got to be flexible on how you manage it. But that's just something for you to be aware of. So, what are some of the goals that we setting ourselves to? Well, these goals need to be measurable. Again, so they need to be SMART goals. They need to be specific, right? They need to be measurable, but at the same time, they need to be action-oriented, which whatever you're setting yourself as a task, there is an action behind it to get that task done. Those need to be realistic, so you do not need to shoot yourself in the foot. You've got to set up realistic goals, which means that if you're a new business, or if you're an existing business and doing okay online, instead of saying, excuse me, instead of saying to your bosses, well, we're trying to have or to reach out to hundreds of thousands of new followers on our Twitter account by the end of the week, you know that's not going to happen. You try to tell them, well, we're trying to increase followers to 500 every single week, which is very realistic and is achievable. And again, there needs to be time bound around it, which means that we need to have a time schedule when those actions are going to be complete. So those goals need to be specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-bound. And if you follow these, then of course, whatever you're setting yourselves to do, you will be quite okay with it, because you have got a pretty simple, clear process that you will be working on implementing and achieving those goals. Content development. Now, doing well in social media is not just about building up a presence, but again, to educate your users, you've got to have content. And you've got to have people to develop that content for you. If you do not have people to develop content for you, you've got to identify someone who will do that bit of work for you. If you're not, then you will be in trouble, because that means that no one is going to be following you because you've got nothing interesting to say. Right? Just think about your groups of friends, and if you've got those who are very quiet, who don't say much, they won't be invited quite a lot to engage in specific activities or to go out or to travel. Because they are part of the group, but not really engaging much, they're not saying much, and therefore they're leaving themselves out. But those who are going all in and contributing to that group of yours, they will be the guys that you will want them to be within your group of friends, of your close friends, or group of people you want to work for your own research. Right? So that's why that's quite important. So the content plan, well, this is the approach that normally you'll need to think about whenever you start to think about the content. You need to identify what is the theme of your content. Remember we talked about those themes, right? Is it about sales and marketing? Is it about HR? Is it about customer support or executive management? Right? What is that about? So you need to define that first. Who will create that content? Is it going to be just one guy, or different groups, or different individuals within the company that will do bits and pieces, right? And again, there needs to be a bit of moderation going on, not too much, to kill that whole social media plan. Because if there is too much of moderation, people won't do much around it. But just in general, there needs to be someone who just quickly scans through some of the content that goes out, right? But again, ultimately you need to trust people that are doing the work for you. Because if you trust them, you don't need to look at the things that they're doing. You'll be fine. You'll just trust that they'll do a good job. And again, if something goes wrong, that's fine. Just accept it and move on. And in social media, even those biggest failures in social media, those companies succeeded quite okay because they accepted the fact that they failed, and those users that followed them, they just accepted the fact too and they moved on. The next one is when and where will it be shared. So once you have content, you're going to publish it. When, which social networking channel are you going to share, and when. Remember, the when keyword is quite important because users in social media, different users engage with social networking channels at different times, right? So, as a content developer or as a business, when you're sending out content, you will need to send out content at the right time of the day. For instance, during the day, you are in the lectures, you are busy. You might not have time to look at your social networking channels, right? But later on in the afternoon or in the evening, you'll be having a dinner, having a coffee, whatever. You'll have time to look at your YouTube channel that you're subscribed to, or to your Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and so on. So that's a pretty good time for the companies to be targeting you with the content. Because if they're publishing content throughout the day, by the time you're gonna look at it, there will be other companies publishing content, and by the time you've got users to look at it, that content of yours is gone. Because of the timeline in your feed, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter. So, publishing the content at the right time is essential. And again, every social networking channel and some of the tools online will help you identify the right time to publish content. And again, some of the recent research is telling us that normally weekend is a very good time, and late evenings are very good for the content to go out. So if you really wanted to improve the reach and the engagement of the content, you've got to try and publish the content, put the content out late evenings, and especially in the midday. How often will you share third-party content? Now, you're not going to be able to create content of your own all the time, right? It's going to be impossible. Even if you're a media house, like Red Bull, okay, you cannot have all the content in the world to just go live all the time. So at some point you will have to share third-party content, which means that you are being very selective what you're sharing, and you're sharing stuff that you think is going to be relevant to the users. So in other words, when you share third-party content, you need to know that it's serving some sort of need for the users of your own community. The next one, how will your content be delivered? So is that content going to be delivered as a tweet, right? Is that content going to be delivered as a status update on Facebook or LinkedIn or something like that? Or is it going to be a blog video or all of the above? Remember, every social network on its own is a different animal, right? We know Pinterest is all about visuals. Instagram is all about visuals, right? Okay? Facebook is both visuals and text, right? And again, LinkedIn, most of them are moving to becoming more visual, but you can do with both. But the content and the nature of that content is different in different channels. Again, we know that LinkedIn is more professional, right? You can have something funny stuff in there, it's fine, just to break it up a little bit. But in general, it's a professional business networking site. Facebook is more quirky, it's more fun, it's personal, it's okay. Twitter is a bit like that as well. Instagram falls within the same kind of group. Pinterest is more organized, right? With those pinballs and so on. So you've got to have a good understanding as to which social network you're in and what content needs to go and in what format. So, if you're targeting Instagram, you know that the format has got to be visual. But not just visual, it's got to be very, very good or remarkable type of visuals. So the images or the short videos that are going to be there, they've got to be spot on. Otherwise, it's not going to get anywhere. If it's going to be around tweets, right? That tweet needs to be short, concise. If it's got a link, that's fine, with a link and with an image. Because the research is telling us the tweets that have got the least number of hashtags with a good image and a link in there gets more clicked on and viewed than any other tweet. So again, there are specific techniques that we need to know in every single channel, and we need to work on it, and then when we set something up, it needs to be relevant. So, what we said earlier, we need to keep calm and educate and entertain. So if we're able to find the needs that customers have got, right, we need to try and help them out with the content that will sort some of the problems that they've got. And in a way, we can be a bit entertaining on the way, so we can have some stuff that is funny, that is useful. So the content, that's what I talked about earlier, the content calendar. You need to know when that content is going out. So, you've got to be very strategic here. Because if you're sending content at the wrong time of the day, it will not be looked at. Because by the time users are going to look at, there will be content from other people. So in other words, your content, it's almost as it has never been published. Because you're sending out at the wrong time. So no content, no social presence. Remember that. No content marketing strategy, no social networking strategy. Right? And of course, social should be around some type of content calendar, your message, and your social networking plan. So again, the content is very essential, but of course, not just any type of content, but specific content delivered in a specific social channel at a specific time of the day. And SWOT analysis help us, very simple, a nice model, help us to understand where we are with social. What are the strengths within our company? What are our weaknesses? What are the things that we struggle? What are some of the threats from outsiders, competition? And most importantly, what are some of the opportunities that we can gain with social? So we can use a SWOT analysis just to quickly scan through and have a good understanding of where we are with social. It's quite a simple tactic, but if done well, it can serve quite huge amount of work when it comes to social media, and it can be quite effective. Ideas on content creation, they can be around testing your message, target your message, prove your worth, prove that you work by promoting and publishing relevant content, engage consistently. If you don't, because just putting out content out there and not engaging is useless, right? Because people are going to ignore your content in the future because you're the one that's not really saying much. And then once you've done a very good job with all the above, you can ask for the order and it will be just fine. People are not going to be pissed off because you've done that, simply because you have done a very good job in helping them out. So, these are some of the things for you to look into. To be able to develop a social networking plan or strategy, you need to do some of those things, right? We talked about research. Researching and learning who your customers are. Setting up specific goals. And I'm putting this table in there for you to use. Identifying channels that respond to those customers and to those goals that you're setting yourself. Identifying resources. Who do you need? What do you need? And how many resources have you got? And how they can help you achieve all of the above. Educate. How are you going to educate users? What type of content? And how? And when? What time of the day? And which social network are you going to publish? And then most importantly, how are you going to convert those engaged users into customers? And ultimately, that's where the ROI comes handy. And again, using the previous slide as a checklist, create a social network strategy for your chosen company, fill in the blank column, and then tweet it as a picture using the module hashtag, because that's something we would like to see. And of course, that's something that we can talk about into more details next week as well. So that's all for today. Thank you very much indeed. Do you have any questions?